If there are three heavens, why has no one told you the truth?
Your greatest battle is not against flesh and blood.
I will wipe every tear from their eyes.
Have you ever wondered if there is a place where every shadow in your life is lifted? A realm where sorrow cannot follow you, where death itself is forbidden to enter. The Bible calls it the third heaven. But between here and that throne of light lie realms you have never seen. Realms of war, realms of glory, realms where the fate of your soul is decided. And tonight, we are going to walk through them, step by step. Before we begin, I want to thank you for being here. If this journey stirs your heart, please like this video, subscribe, and share it so more hearts can awaken to God's truth. You are part of this mission. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and guide your steps into His light. Now, let us lift the veil and enter the first heaven. Have you ever paused in the stillness of night and wondered if there is more than the sky above, more than the stars you can count, more than the life you see and touch? The Bible speaks of not one, but three heavens. Three realms woven into the fabric of God's creation. Three layers between this fragile world and the throne of the Almighty. Yet, this truth so profound, so essential, is rarely told. Why? Perhaps because it shakes the way we see reality. Perhaps because it demands that we lift our eyes from the ground to something eternal. Perhaps because once you know, you cannot live the same again. Imagine a veil, stretched thin between two worlds. On one side, the noise of your daily life, footsteps on stone, the clatter of markets, the weight of bills and worries. On the other, a silence that is alive, a light that does not burn but heals, a presence that bends every knee. Most live their entire lives without ever touching that veil. Some feel it brush against them in moments of loss or awe, a sunset, a funeral, a birth. Fewer still dare to pull it back. But tonight, we will. We will walk the path mapped out in Scripture, from the sky you see each morning, to realms of battle unseen, to the place where God Himself wipes away the final tear. This is not a journey of curiosity. It is a journey of transformation. Because once you understand the heavens, you understand your place in God's design. You see that life is not a string of accidents, but a story written by an eternal author. You learn that the things that crush you here are not the end. The first heaven is where we begin. You have seen it every day. The pale light of dawn spilling over rooftops. The vault of blue that cradles clouds. The breath in your lungs drawn from air you cannot see but cannot live without. Genesis calls it the expanse, a masterpiece painted on the second day of creation, not merely background, but the very system that sustains your life. Think of it as the roof of a great house. We live beneath it, sheltered from the cold void of space. It brings rain to the thirsty ground, warmth to frozen mornings, shade to weary travelers. David wrote, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of His hands." Every sunrise is a sermon in color, every storm a reminder of His power, every star a word in His unending poem. And yet, as beautiful as it is only the beginning. Like the opening notes of a symphony, it invites you to listen for what comes next. It stirs something in your soul, a longing you can't name, a question you can't silence. Why would God give us such beauty, if not to draw our eyes upward? Why make a sky so vast, unless to remind us there is more beyond it? Because above this roof lies another realm, a place you cannot see with your eyes, but one that touches your life in ways you cannot imagine. A place where light and darkness clash without pause, where angels carry messages and demons scheme in shadows. a place where your prayers are heard and sometimes delayed because of a war you never see. And that is where we go next. But first, remember this. The heavens were not made to be admired from a distance. They were made to be understood, to be entered, to be part of your walk with God. The first heaven calls you to lift your gaze. The second will call you to lift your sword. So, take a breath. Look up. Because if the roof of your house is this full of life, what happens in the skies beyond will shake you. But if this roof is full of life, why do I hear the clash of swords above it? If the first heaven is a roof of life, then above it is a realm of war. Not the kind fought with iron and wood. Not the kind recorded in human history, but a war older than nations, deeper than any trench, more decisive than any crown. The prophets glimpsed it. Daniel spoke of an angel delayed for 21 days, not by distance, but by resistance. The Apostle Paul wrote of it plainly, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the powers, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Picture this. The quiet blue above you, suddenly shifting. Clouds torn like cloth. Light clashing with shadow in a silent thunder. Angels in robes of fire, swords, drawn wings cutting through the dark. Opposite them, shapes that flicker and writhe, their eyes like coals, their hands like claws. They fight not for land, but for souls. They fight over nations and over you. You may think yourself untouched by such things, but every temptation resisted, every prayer whispered, every act of mercy. These are the small skirmishes in a greater war. Your discouragement is not random. Your moments of sudden hope are not accidents. They are ripples from battles fought in the second heaven. Here messages are carried from God to man and sometimes intercepted. Here the enemy sows lies like seeds in the wind. Here victories are won in the time it takes you to choose between anger and forgiveness. The ancients called this the middle heaven, the in-between. It is not paradise, it is not earth, it is the contested ground between. And though you cannot see it, you have felt it, that heaviness in prayer, as though words fall short of the throne. That sudden peace as though something unseen has drawn near. These are the echoes of that war. Michael the archangel stands here. Gabriel's feet have touched this place. Here is where the tempter met the Son of God and lost. Here is where your faith is tested before it reaches heaven's gates. So why does God let this realm exist? Because love must be chosen. Because obedience without resistance is no obedience at all. Because faith untested is not faith, it is assumption. In this realm, the stakes are eternal. The weapons are not swords, but truth. Not spears, but prayer. Not shields of iron, but faith itself. Paul called it the armor of God, not crafted by hands, but forged in surrender. And here lies the great truth. You are not a spectator. You are part of this war. Your choices matter beyond your sight. Your words carry weight beyond your hearing. When you pray, the heavens move. When you resist, the darkness recoils. But the second heaven is not forever. Its battles have an end. And above it, untouched by war, is the place where no sword is drawn, no tear is shed, no shadow falls. It is the third heaven. Paul was caught up to it, whether in the body or out of the body, he did not know. Their words failed him. Their joy eclipsed memory. There he saw what eye has not seen nor ear heard. And that is where our journey leads next. So before we climb higher, remember this. You live beneath the first heaven, you walk under the shadow of the second. But you are destined by grace for the third. Lift your head, hold your ground. For the war above you is proof that the home beyond it is worth every step. And if the skies above are a battlefield, what waits in the throne room beyond? If the second heaven is a battlefield, the third is a throne room. Here the clash of swords is silenced. Here no shadow falls. Here every tear is caught and wiped away by the hand that made you. John saw it. He wrote in Revelation 21:4, He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. Imagine those words not as poetry, but as reality. Streets paved with gold so pure they shine like glass. A river clear as crystal flowing from the very throne of God. The sound, not of war, but of voices singing in a harmony you've never heard on earth. Light that needs no sun because the Lamb is its lamp. Paul was caught up here, the third heaven. He confessed he did not know if it was in the body or out of the body, only that it was real. What he saw he could not speak, not because he forgot, but because words could not hold it. Close your eyes. Think of your deepest grief, the loss you carry, the wound you hide. Now imagine that grief gone, not dulled, not ignored, gone. In its place, a joy so pure that it swallows memory itself. This is not the reward of the few. It is the home prepared for all who belong to Christ, not by merit, but by mercy. Not by climbing ladders of good deeds, but by the blood that opened the way. Here there is no temple for God. Himself is the temple. No need for lamps, for the glory of God is the light. Here nations walk in that light and kings bring their splendor into it. Nothing impure will ever enter. No deceit, no fear, no death. Can you picture it? The air alive with the fragrance of holiness. Every step ringing with purpose. Every breath filled with praise. Every face radiant not from the light they receive, but from the light they behold. And here is the wonder. The one on the throne knows your name. The one who spoke galaxies into being bends to wipe your tears. The Alpha and Omega speaks to you as a father to a child. If the first heaven calls you to look up, if the second calls you to stand firm, the third calls you home. This is the goal. This is the hope that steadies you in storms, the anchor that holds when the battlefield rages above your head. But the Bible shows us only 3 heavens. A prophet named Enoch saw more. 10 realms in all, realms of wonder and judgment, of beauty and awe. Places where the architecture of God's cosmos unfolds in visions beyond the reach of mortal thought. And if what we have seen so far stirs your soul, what Enoch saw will break the boundaries of your imagination. But if the Bible opens 3 doors, why did Enoch walk through 10? Enoch was not like other men. In a world still young, he walked with God. And one day he was gone. Not dead, not buried. Taken. The scriptures tell it simply. Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him. But ancient writings, treasured by many, speak of what happened after. They say Enoch was lifted not just into the sky, not just beyond the stars, but through the very architecture of heaven itself. The Bible tells us of 3 heavens. Enoch saw 10. He began at the first, the familiar skies over earth, but he did not stop there. He was led higher and higher by an angel clothed in light. Close your eyes and follow him. The air grows thinner. The blue of the sky fades to black. Stars burn around you like living embers. But then a door opens in the darkness. Inside is not emptiness, but life. Realms layered one upon another, each distinct, each radiant in its own way. Some are gardens, some are courts, some are terrible in their holiness, and in everyone, the presence of God rules. Enoch's journey was not for leisure. It was a revelation, a tour through creation's hidden halls, a lesson written in light and shadow. He saw angels at their posts, tending to the order of the cosmos. He saw the place where prayers are gathered, like incense rising before the throne. He saw the prison of the fallen, their faces cast down, awaiting judgment. And as he rose higher, the scenes changed, from seas of fire to rivers of honey. From choirs of angels to the trembling of giants chained in darkness. From the harmony of the stars to the blinding glory of the throne itself. Why does this matter? Because Enoch's journey pulls back the curtain on the reality we live in. The world is not flat stone under our feet, it is a layered living temple. Every realm connected every level part of the same great design. For the early believers, these visions were not fantasy. They were warnings and promises. Warnings that sin has consequences and rebellion leads to chains. Promises that the faithful are known, remembered, and brought into the courts of the King. And Enoch himself, he became a witness, not only to his generation, but to every generation after. His life declared that intimacy with God is not bound by death, that to walk with him here is to be welcomed to walk with him there. Think of it, a man of flesh and bone walking the same ground as we do, now standing in places where light sings and time bends. A man with calloused hands and mortal breath, beholding the eternal. The Bible hints at mysteries. Enoch's journey invites us to explore them, not for the sake of curiosity alone, but to kindle in us a deeper awe. If God's creation is this vast, if his courts are this many, how much greater must he be? And this is only the beginning. In the next steps of his journey, Enoch will pass through realms that defy the imagination, realms where even the stars are servants and every breeze carries the scent of eternity. But if a man can walk where angels dwell, what keeps you from walking with God today? The angel took Enoch by the hand. They passed through the veil of the third heaven and descended into the first of the 10 realms he would see. Here was the first heaven of Enoch's vision, not the soft blue above earth, but a realm vast as an ocean turned upside down. Above his head stretched a sea of water shimmering with light from beyond. Its waves did not crash or churn, they moved in slow, majestic swells like the breath of the Almighty. Beneath that sea hung the stars, each tended by an angel who moved them in their appointed courses. Enoch saw these angels clothed in white, brighter than snow, each holding a rod of light. They spoke to one another in voices like wind over water, and though he could not understand their words, he knew they were keeping the order of the heavens. This, the angel told him, is where the foundations of the skies are set. Here light and water embrace. Here the boundaries of night and day are kept. It was beautiful. It was orderly. It was alive. But beauty was not all that awaited him. The angel led him upward, and the light dimmed. They crossed into the second heaven, and Enoch's breath caught in his throat. Here there was no sea, no song. Here was shadow. Mountains of black stone rose into a sky without stars. Chains hung from jagged peaks, each holding a figure so vast Enoch could hardly take them in. Some looked like men, others like beasts. Their faces were twisted not with rage but with despair. Their eyes burned faintly like embers in ash. These, said the angel, are the watchers who rebelled. They abandoned their posts, descended to earth, and defiled what was holy. Now they are bound awaiting the day of judgment. A shiver ran through Enoch. The air here was heavy, thick with the weight of justice unfulfilled. From somewhere far off he thought he heard the low rumble of weeping. Yet even here the rule of God was absolute. Chains did not move unless he allowed it. No shadow fell unless he decreed it. Enoch realized something then. Heaven is not only the place of joy and praise. It is also the place where holiness is guarded and rebellion is restrained. The contrast between the first and second heavens struck him deeply. In one, the light moved in harmony, sustaining the order of the universe. In the other, the darkness was frozen in place, a warning to any who would defy the Creator. He felt the angel's hand on his shoulder. Remember what you have seen. The same God who orders the stars also binds the proud. His mercy is great, but his justice is sure. Enoch looked back one last time. The still sea above the stars, the silent mountains where giants lay chained. Light and darkness, side by side, each proclaiming the glory of God in their own way. And he wondered, if the first 2 heavens could hold such wonder and warning, what would the next reveal? But if the stars have keepers, who keeps watch over the fate of man? The angel's hand tightened around Enoch's, and they rose again. The black mountains faded beneath them. The air grew warm, filled with a fragrance unlike anything he had known, the scent of living blossoms and flowing water. They entered the third heaven of Enoch's vision. Before him stretched a garden, vast beyond measure. Its trees rose higher than the tallest cedar, their leaves shimmering like emerald in sunlight that did not come from a sun. Rivers wound between them, their waters clear as glass, yet glinting with colors no mortal eye had seen. The ground itself glowed faintly, as though life poured upward from its roots. Birds of radiant plumage moved from branch to branch, their songs weaving through the air like threads of gold. Everywhere, flowers bloomed, some with petals wide as shields, others small enough to rest on the tip of a finger, each carrying its own fragrance. This, the angel said softly, is paradise. The garden prepared for the righteous, the place where the faithful rest until the day of resurrection. Enoch's heart ached at its beauty. Every tree seemed to whisper peace. Every breeze carried the promise of home. But the angel led him onward to the far edge of the garden. Here the light dimmed not into darkness, but into a solemn gray. They stood before a great hall, its pillars reaching higher than the clouds. Within, seats of stone formed a half circle, each carved with eyes that seemed to follow him. This, the angel said, is the place of judgment. Here the souls of men are weighed. Here their deeds are set against the law of the Most High. Enoch felt the air shift. Figures appeared clothed in robes of fire, each carrying a scroll. They moved with purpose, their faces neither harsh nor kind, only resolute. He saw souls brought before the seat. Some were robed in white, their faces lifted in joy as they were led toward the garden. Others stood bare, trembling as they were taken away into shadow. Enoch's chest tightened. The garden and the hall stood side by side, life and justice sharing the same ground. He realized then that paradise was not without its gate, and that the gate was guarded. The angel turned to him. Do not think this place is for all. It is for those whose names are written in the book of life. The garden is the reward of faith. The hall is the reminder that God is not mocked. Enoch bowed his head. He understood that holiness was not just beauty, it was also boundary. Love was not without truth. Mercy was not without justice. They lingered in the garden a moment longer. Enoch touched the trunk of a tree and warmth spread through him, not heat but life itself. He knelt by the river, and for a moment his reflection did not show the man he was, but the man he was meant to be. Then the angel spoke again. There are higher realms yet. Realms where the very stars are servants, where the voice of God shakes the pillars of creation. Will you see them? Enoch looked back at the garden, then at the hall. Yes, he whispered. The angel's wings unfolded, and together they rose. Below them, paradise and judgment faded into light. And ahead, something brighter still began to break the horizon. But if paradise has a gate, what must be beyond the walls of glory? They rose into a brightness that seemed to pierce the soul. Below them, the garden and the hall of judgment shrank into a patch of light swallowed by distance. Above, a radiance spread like dawn across the endless sky, yet it was not the light of a sun nor the glow of any star. This, the angel said, is the fourth heaven. Enoch blinked against the brilliance. The air here was alive, vibrating with a sound like 1,000 harps played in perfect harmony. Before him stood ranks of angels beyond counting. They were not the quiet keepers of the stars he had seen before. These were warriors. Their armor shone like molten gold, their wings stretched wide, tipped with fire. In their hands they held spears of light that pulsed as though alive. Every face was set with unwavering resolve, their eyes fixed upward toward a throne, still unseen. Enoch could feel their strength not as a weight, but as a wind pressing against his spirit. It was not pride, it was purpose. This, the angel guide whispered, is the host of the Lord. They stand ready, not for earthly war, but for the command of the King. No shadow passes into the higher realms without their knowing. No command from the throne goes unanswered. The sight filled Enoch with awe and a strange trembling. For if these angels guarded the way above, what glory must they be guarding? Then the angel led him beyond the army. Here Enoch saw something even more wondrous, vast storehouses, each glowing with its own color. One burned with golden light, as if filled with captured suns. Another shimmered silver blue, like moonlight gathered into jars. Others glowed green, crimson, violet, each hue alive, as though the colors themselves were breathing. These, the angel explained, are the treasures of light. From here come the seasons and the signs. From here, the light of dawn is poured out, the glow of evening released. The Most High stores them until their appointed time. Enoch stepped closer to one of the storehouses. The door was carved with living patterns, shapes that shifted and flowed as he watched. From within, he heard a faint ringing hum, as if the light itself was singing. He realized then that light was not mere energy or reflection, it was a servant. It had a source. It had a keeper. "Remember this," the angel said. "Nothing in creation moves by chance. Every beam of light, every star's path, every spark in the darkness is guided by the will of God. Even light obeys." Enoch's heart swelled with reverence. If even light bowed to the Almighty, how could man made from dust do any less? They lingered for a moment in that radiant place. The army stood like statues of flame. The storehouses hummed with silent power, and all around them the air trembled with the nearness of the throne. Enoch looked to his guide. "What lies beyond this?" The angel's eyes brightened. "Above this is the realm where the choirs sing without ceasing, where the very pillars of heaven shake with their song. But first, you must pass through the gates of fire." Enoch drew in a breath. Gates of fire. Even here, in a place so full of light, there was still a threshold, a test before the greater glory. And as the angel spread his wings, Enoch knew they were about to cross into something that would strip away every shadow left in him. But if the light itself has a keeper, who guards the fire of the throne? The wind of their ascent turned to heat. It was not the heat of the sun, nor the burn of flame on skin. It was the kind of heat that reached inside, touching the spirit. Before Enoch rose two massive gates, each taller than mountains. Each formed entirely of fire. The flames did not flicker or consume. They flowed like rivers, turned upward. Within the blaze, shapes moved, not demons, not men, but living fire itself. The light from these gates was so pure, it stripped the shadows from Enoch's thoughts. Every hidden fear, every trace of pride stood exposed in its glow. "This," the angel said, "is the gate of fire. None may pass without being cleansed." Enoch hesitated. The heat pressed against him, not with pain, but with a question, "What will you leave behind?" He stepped forward. The flames reached for him, not to burn flesh, but to burn away all that was not of God. Memories passed before his eyes, moments of selfishness, of doubt, of silence, when truth should have been spoken. Each one flared, then dissolved into light. And then he was through. The air beyond was filled with sound, not the roar of fire, but the rise of song. It came from every direction, as though the very sky had found its voice. Enoch stood in the fifth heaven, and before him stretched choirs of angels without number. They stood in circles upon circles, each rank higher than the last, each clothed in garments of white that shone with the light of the throne. Some held harps strung with strings of silver fire. Others carried trumpets that gleamed like morning. And when they played, the music did not merely fill the air, it filled Enoch himself until he felt he might burst from the joy of it. "This," the angel guide said, "is the song that never ceases. It is the praise of the Almighty, the echo of His glory through eternity. Even now, as men sleep, this song rises without end." Enoch listened, and in the music he heard truths that could not be spoken. He heard the laughter of creation's first dawn. He heard the promise of the final day when death will be no more. He heard his own name sung not as a title, but as a belonging. Every face in the choir was turned toward a light still hidden beyond sight. The joy in their voices was not for themselves, but for the one they beheld. It was a joy so complete it left no room for envy, no space for sorrow. And Enoch understood here worship was not duty, it was life. Here, music was not an offering, it was the breath of existence itself. The angel touched his shoulder. You will see higher yet. But remember this, every realm above is built on what you hear now. Without praise, there is no heaven. Without the joy of the king, there is no light to fill it. Enoch turned once more to the choirs. He saw the harmony ripple outward, like waves touching realms he had yet to enter. He knew that even in the darkest places below, this song could be felt faint but unbroken. And as the angel spread his wings for the next ascent, Enoch's heart carried the melody not as a memory but as a flame that could not be quenched. But if the song never ceases here, what will it sound like before the throne itself? From the waves of song, the angel carried Enoch higher still. The sound did not fade. It deepened as though each step upward added new harmonies. But the light here changed. It was not the warm gold of the choirs nor the fierce blaze of the gate. It was clear, white, almost like the light of parchment awaiting ink. This, the angel said, is the sixth heaven. Before Enoch stood rows upon rows of tall, slender figures, angels clothed in robes white as fresh fallen snow. In their hands they carried tablets of shining crystal. Their eyes were fixed not on him, but on the words they were writing with pens of fire. Enoch saw what was inscribed, the histories of nations, the choices of men, every act of mercy, every hidden sin, every whispered prayer. It was all here recorded without error, without haste, without forgetting. These are the scribes of heaven, the angel explained. They record the works of God among men, the rise and fall of kings, the faithfulness of the humble. Nothing is lost to them. Nothing is overlooked. Enoch watched as one scribe paused as if listening to something distant, then wrote a single line and smiled. What did he hear? Enoch asked. A prayer, the angel answered, one that pleased the king. The weight of this realm pressed on Enoch. Here was the certainty that no life is wasted, no moment unseen. Here was the quiet justice that moves slowly, but never stops. The angel gestured upward. Beyond the scribes was another realm, and as they rose into it, the air grew solemn. This, the angel said, is the seventh heaven, the council of the Most High. Enoch's eyes widened. Before him stretched a vast chamber, its floor like glass reflecting the light from above. Thrones lined the sides, each occupied by an elder clothed in white, their crowns gleaming with unearthly jewels. Between them stood angels of rank and power, their wings folded in reverence. At the far end rose a single throne higher than the rest. It blazed with a light Enoch could not fully behold. From it came a voice not loud but so complete it filled the entire realm. The council was in session. He heard the presentation of nations, the weighing of leaders, the dispatching of messengers. Each word spoken here would ripple through the heavens and onto the earth. Enoch understood then that the order he had seen in the armies, in the storehouses, in the scribes began here. This was the center of command, the place where divine will moved outward like waves from a stone cast into still water. The angel leaned close. Few among men have stood here. Even the prophets were shown only glimpses. Remember this sight, for here is where your world is governed not by chance, but by the counsel of the eternal King. Enoch bowed low, not daring to lift his eyes to the throne. Yet even in his humility, he felt the gaze of the king upon him, not cold, not distant, but piercing and knowing. He realized that to stand in this council was not merely an honor. It was a reminder the king rules and his purposes will stand. The angel's voice was gentle but firm. It is time to see more. Above this, the realms grow even closer to the throne. But each step upward will test what remains in you. Enoch took a final look at the council, the elders in their crowns, the scribes in their crystal robes, the light that no shadow could enter, and knew that he would carry this vision for the rest of his days. And as they rose again, the thought burned in his mind. But if the king rules from here, what will it mean to stand at his very feet? The angel's wings carried Enoch beyond the council's light. Here the air shimmered as though the very space between them was alive. The vast hall of elders faded, and in its place unfolded a realm of motion, endless, orderly motion. This, the angel said, is the eighth heaven. Before Enoch stretched great wheels of light, each turning slowly, each engraved with patterns of stars and fire. They were not chaotic, they moved with precision, every rotation measured, every spark intentional. Around these wheels stood angels, each mighty and distinct. Some held rods tipped with flame, others bore compasses of gold that traced the paths of the constellations. With gestures alone, they guided the wheels, adjusting their speed, aligning their edges. These, the angel explained, are the governors of times and seasons. They appoint the rising of the sun, the turning of the moon, the courses of the stars. They keep the balance of heat and cold, of rain and drought, of seed time and harvest. Enoch's gaze followed a single wheel vast as a city, turning once every 1,000 heartbeats. Upon it, he saw the phases of the moon pass like pages in a book. Another wheel showed the march of the constellations, Orion, Pleiades, the Bear, each moving as though to a silent rhythm. This, said the angel, is why your world does not fall into chaos. The Most High set these in place, and his servants keep them. Enoch felt the magnitude of it, the fragility of life, if even one wheel were to falter. Yet here, there was no faltering. The guardians worked without fatigue, their movements like music written in light. He noticed a group of angels gathered near a great sphere that glowed with the blue of oceans and the green of forests. It turned slowly, and Enoch recognized it, the earth. They watch over your world, the angel said. They measure its seasons, weigh its days, and note its years. When storms rise, they know. When rivers swell, they know. When a man plants a seed or a child takes her first breath, they know. Enoch's heart swelled with wonder and humility. How small the earth seemed from here. How carefully it was kept. The angel led him along a bridge of light that curved between the wheels. Below them, the vault of stars glowed like embers in a great hearth. Above them, Enoch sensed realms yet greater their light, pressing down like the promise of dawn. Beyond this, the angel said, are the places where the fire of creation burns, still where the voice of the king shapes what is yet to come. But to reach them, you must pass the guardians who keep the threshold. Enoch nodded, though his heart beat faster. Every ascent brought him closer to the throne, and deeper into the truth that nothing in creation was without order, without a keeper, without purpose. He took one last look at the great wheels, their slow, steady turning. If the choirs of the fifth heaven sang the glory of God, these wheels moved it. And he knew the same hand that turned the stars was guiding his own steps upward. But if the heavens move at his command, what of the hearts of men? The air grew warmer as they ascended. Not with the gentle heat of the sun nor the cleansing fire of the gate, but with a heat that pulsed like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The light shifted, no longer white, no longer gold, but molten alive, as though every color had been melted into a single burning essence. This, the angel said, is the ninth heaven, the forge of creation. Enoch's eyes widened. Before him stretched a vast expanse of flame, not chaotic, but deliberate. It rose and fell like the breathing of some vast living being. Through its waves he saw shapes forming mountains, rivers, forests, only to dissolve again into raw fire. Within the blaze moved angels unlike any he had seen. They were robed in fire, their forms shifting like molten metal. In their hands they held tools that shone brighter than the flames themselves, hammers, chisels, bowls of liquid light. They worked in silence, yet their movements spoke a language older than the stars. These, the angel explained, are the shapers. Here the elements are refined. Here the seeds of worlds are forged. Nothing you have seen on earth exists without passing first through this place. Enoch stepped forward, the heat wrapping around him like a living mantle. He saw one angel lift a sphere of flame, strike it 3 times with a hammer of pure light, and release it into the air. It rose, cooled, and became a star. Another angel shaped a stream of molten silver, letting it flow into a pattern that hardened into a river for some far-off world. Enoch's breath caught. Do they still make? The angel's gaze was steady. They make until the king says it is finished. For creation is not a single act, but an unfolding. And every unfolding begins here. He looked deeper into the forge. In its heart, he saw something strange. A place where the fire burned darker, hotter, more intense than anywhere else. It pulsed, and with each pulse, waves of creation rippled outward. That the angel whispered is the breath of the Almighty. It is from there that all life begins. Even now, the breath moves through every star, every tree, every soul. The weight of those words sank into Enoch. Life was not an accident, not a chain of chance. It was crafted, measured, and breathed into being by will and love. As they walked along the edge of the forge, Enoch noticed vessels sealed with light. "What are those?" he asked. "They are works yet to be released," the angel replied. "Visions for worlds you have not seen, designs for ages yet to come. The king holds them until their appointed hour." Enoch felt a tremor of awe. Creation was not finished, it was waiting. Waiting for the moment when time, purpose, and the will of God aligned. The angel turned to him. "Beyond this, there is only one realm higher, the place where the king himself dwells. But the way is not easy. It is guarded, for no imperfection can stand in its light." Enoch looked back at the forge, the fire that built worlds, the breath that gave life, the hands that shaped the foundations of reality, and felt smaller than ever. Yet, he also felt chosen. If he had been brought this far, it was not to stop. And as they rose from the heat into a light even greater, one question burned in him. But if all things begin here, what will it mean to stand before the one who began them? They rose from the forge into a silence deeper than sound. The heat of creation faded, replaced by a purity so complete that even thought seemed to pause. Enoch's breath slowed. Every step felt as though he was crossing into eternity itself. "This," the angel said, his voice hushed, "is the 10th heaven, the throne of the king." At first, Enoch saw only light. Not light as the sun gives, nor the glow of fire, but light that seemed alive, aware intent. It moved like a river, yet stood still like a mountain. Every beam seemed to know him, to pierce him, to strip away all pretense until only truth remained. Then, shapes began to emerge within the brilliance. He saw a sea vast and still clear as crystal, yet deeper than the sky. Above it, a throne stood high and solitary, its form both simple and beyond all measure. From the throne radiated colors. He had no name for each, carrying a feeling joy, awe, peace, longing woven together in perfect harmony. Upon the throne sat one. Enoch could not bear to look fully, yet every part of him knew the present. The Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. The voice that spoke galaxies into being. No words passed from the king's mouth yet. Enoch heard him not with his ears, but in the marrow of his bones. It was as if the voice had always been speaking, and only now did Enoch finally listen. "I know you." Those 3 words struck deeper than any truth he had ever known. Here in the highest heaven, the one who made the stars knew him. Not as a number, not as a name in a book, as a son. Enoch fell to his face. The ground beneath him felt like light made solid, yet it held him as gently as a father holds a child. He could feel the breath of the Almighty, the same breath he had seen in the forge, now moving around him like a warm wind. The king's voice came again, not in thunder, but in intimacy. "You will return. You will speak what you have seen. For these realms are not for the eyes alone, but for the hearts of those I call." Enoch dared to lift his eyes slightly. Around the throne, vast choirs stood, angels of glory, elders crowned with light creatures, unlike anything on earth, each crying the same word in unending rhythm. "Holy, holy, holy." The sound was not noise, it was life. It was the pulse of all existence, the rhythm by which the stars moved and the seas obeyed. The angel touched Enoch's shoulder. "It is time." Enoch's heart ached. To leave was to return to shadow after seeing the sun. Yet he knew the vision was a gift, not a home, for his work was not finished. As they began their descent, the king's voice followed him, not as a sound, but as a promise. I am with you until you are with me. The light faded, but the fire within him remained. He had seen the beginning and the end. He had stood where time bowed and creation sang. And he knew with a certainty beyond death that the king's throne was not just the end of the journey. It was the source of every step. But if the one on the throne calls you by name, how will you answer? From the shadow of the earth to the blazing throne of the King Enoch's journey was more than a climb through realms. It was a revelation, one layer at a time. He had walked beneath the sea of stars in the first heaven, stood among the bound watchers in the second, and breathed the fragrance of paradise in the third. He had seen the armies in the fourth heaven, the unending song in the fifth, and the scribes of eternity in the sixth. He had bowed before the council in the seventh, beheld the wheels of seasons in the eighth, and watched creation's fire in the ninth. And finally, he had stood before the throne in the 10th. Each realm was more than a place. It was a mirror showing him not only the order of the heavens, but the truth of his own heart. Enoch's mind replayed the faces angels clothed in light, the chained giants in shadow, the elders crowned with glory. He remembered the scent of the garden, the hum of the storehouses, the heat of the forge, the silence before the throne. Every realm was a thread, and now he saw the tapestry they wove. The king's glory was not locked in one place. It moved through the heavens, through the earth, through every moment of every life. Even in the lowest places, the song of the fifth heaven could be heard. Even in the darkest chains, the light of the fourth could pierce. Even in the forges of the ninth, the breath of the 10th was alive. And I tell you, this is not just Enoch's journey. It is ours. We live in the first heaven under the same stars he saw. We walk a world where judgment still guards the gate of paradise. We fight battles in shadows we cannot see. And yet above us, the song has never stopped. The king who called Enoch by name calls us still, not to climb the heavens by our own strength, but to walk each day as though the throne is not far, because it is not. Enoch's journey ends here, for now, but what he saw was not the end of the story. The gates of heaven are mirrored by gates on earth, places where God steps in unseen to shape history. And if the heavens hold armies, storehouses, councils, and forges, what do you think the earth holds unseen all around you? The king is not distant, he is near, and his voice still says, I know you. If this journey through the heavens has stirred your spirit, stay with us. There are more realms to see, more mysteries to uncover. Your likes and your words in the comments are not just numbers. They are a way for this message to reach others who need to hear it. Subscribe not for us, but so that together we can keep walking upward, step by step toward the light. Thank you for coming this far with us. May the King's blessing rest on you, and may his face shine on your path until the day you stand before his throne.